Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves because what I'm about to tell you, this is not a rumor, not speculation, not political theater. This is happening right now. President Donald J. Trump has officially crossed the line that the global elites prayed that he would never touch. So after more than a decade of fentanyl-laced narcotics, cartel-protected smuggling routes, and murdered Americans, and a dictator in Venezuela laughing in our direction, Trump has finally snapped. And tonight, the United States has just activated a level of force that the world has not seen in years. Multiple senior officials have now confirmed covert CIA teams, they're already on the ground inside Venezuela. U.S. Marines have surrounded the coastline, warships have locked targets, and Maduro's entire narco-terror network is now in Trump's crosshairs. Now, this is the first real Monroe Doctrine enforcement in the 21st century, and the opening phase has already begun. Spy planes in the skies, carrier groups off the coast, a 4-star general forward deployed, and a sitting U.S. president who finally said enough. Now, Maduro started this war 12 years ago when he began poisoning our country for profit. President Trump is ending it tonight. So buckle up, folks, because what you're about to hear, this is the full truth of how we got here and what's happening right now, and more importantly, what could unfold in the next 72 hours. Hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is simple. The switch has been flipped. We now know the exact moment President Donald J. Trump authorized this covert operations inside of Venezuela. Multiple senior officials already confirmed that this morning, the president officially personally signed off on the final operational directive, giving the CIA full authority to execute phase 1 inside Venezuelan territory. Now, this is not a drill. This isn't rumored intelligence. This is already happening. Covert units, they've already moved into their positions. Intelligence channels have gone dark, and the Venezuelan regime is suddenly scrambling to understand what just hit them because the operation is alive. Now, to really understand why this operation matters, you have to understand who Nicolas Maduro really is. The Department of Justice didn't just label him a narco-terrorist for fun. They did it because his regime spent 12 straight years pumping deadly narcotics into the United States. There's a $50 million bounty on his head for a reason. The DEA records show his network laced even low-level street drugs like marijuana with fentanyl, intentionally maximizing American casualties. Now, this isn't political disagreement. This is mass murder for profit. Now, Maduro built a narco-terror empire disguised as a government. And the United States has finally decided that he crossed that last red line. Now, here's the part that the mainstream media refuses to talk about. Venezuela isn't some distant problem. It has become a direct pipeline of death into the United States. Now, according to the DEA, nearly 10% of all illicit narcotics entering our country since 2013 came straight from Maduro's network. Now, guys, I don't know if you know, but this translates into hundreds of thousands of dead Americans and millions more trapped in addiction, tens of billions lost in productivity, healthcare, and destroyed families. This isn't drug trafficking. This is narco-terrorism. And President Trump finally said what every American mother already knew. If the poison keeps coming, America must hit the source. And before we go any deeper into tonight's breakdown, I really want to pause for 1 second and ask yourself something important, because while we're talking about national security, there's another kind of security that affects millions of Americans every single day. Now, ask yourself this. Is your Medicare plan helping your retirement, or is it hurting it? Because the wrong plan doesn't just annoy you, it drains you year after year, dollar after dollar. And right now, millions of retirees, they're getting that same message from their doctor. We will no longer accept your insurance next year. That's why I've partnered with Chapter, folks. They help you fix your Medicare coverage so that it strengthens your retirement instead of silently eating it alive. They're fast, they're honest, and they work for you, not for the insurance companies. Now, one viewer told me, Chapter saved me thousands. My Medicare plan finally works for me. So let me ask you, do you want your retirement drained? Or do you want to do what most people already are and protect it? Now, most people are dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. And speaking of real experiences, here's one more message from a subscriber who did take action. So Brenna King said, "Hey, Ron, by the way, thanks for telling me about Chapter. Tyler was wonderful, set me up with the best program for me, and already saved me so much money. Again, thank you, Ron. I told them I heard about them through your program." All right, guys, let's get back to it. So for 6 straight months, not a single illegal crossing has been recorded at America's southern border. Zero. Trump sealed every major route, smashed every cartel cartel corridor and forced the traffickers into the sea. And once the land routes collapsed, guess where Maduro's narco state shifted its operation? Into the Caribbean, using boats, hidden ports, and offshore smuggling lanes. This is why the battlefield has now shifted south. With the border airtight and the Mexican pipelines dead, Venezuela became the final major artery that's feeding America's drug epidemic. Trump cut off the limbs, and now he's going for the heart. Just hours before today's operation kicked off, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they made a move that sent shockwaves through Caracas. They officially designated Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. Now, understand what this means. This isn't just a cartel. This is a criminal empire that's woven directly into the Venezuelan government itself. Now, Maduro isn't associated with the cartel. He leads it. His generals, his intelligence chiefs, his inner circle, all tied to the trafficking networks responsible for poisoning Americans. So by labeling them an FTO, Trump unlocked the full legal authority to strike them anywhere, anytime. Now, tonight, the Caribbean kind of looks less like blue water and more like a forward operating base. The Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group is now parked off of Venezuela's coastline. F-18 Super Hornets, P-8 surveillance aircraft, even long-range bombers have been spotted running tight circles along the Venezuelan airspace boundary. The FAA has already issued emergency warnings, and flights from multiple foreign carriers into Venezuela have been canceled after American aircraft began stacking over the region. We now know that there are over 200 Tomahawk missiles within immediate range, each capable of wiping out a very high target in minutes. It is very clear at this point that the chessboard is set. Now, what most people don't realize is that tonight's escalation didn't begin tonight. President Trump quietly authorized the CIA's covert action package 1 month ago, and Reuters confirmed that this would be the very first phase of any U.S. action against Venezuela. Covert operations mean infiltration, sabotage, mapping critical infrastructure, and identifying exactly where the narco-terror network is hiding. It means operatives already slipped past Maduro security layers long before the public ever even heard a whisper. They're gathering intel, planting electronic eyes, and setting the stage for decisive action. Phase 1 is not coming soon. It's already underway right now. And so while CIA teams operate in the shadows, 5,000 U.S. Marines now sit just over the horizon aboard the USS Iwo Jima and supporting amphibious-ready ships. Now, this isn't an invasion force. This is a scalpel. A Marine expeditionary unit can execute hostage rescues, high-value target extractions, defensive landings, and lightning raids without triggering a full-scale war. These Marines train for moments exactly like this one. Fast, targeted, and surgical. Their presence alone signals that Trump is preparing for options far more precise than a ground war. These aren't occupation troops. These are the men who end crises before the world even knows that they began. So now let's talk targets, because tonight's operation isn't random. It isn't symbolic. If Trump authorizes direct strikes, the first targets will be the pillars of Maduro's narco-terror machine. That includes Maduro himself, senior figures within Cartel de los Soles, and Venezuelan military commanders who oversee the trafficking corridors. Secondary targets include coastal radar sites, anti-aircraft units, drug processing labs, and underground storage depots buried across the countryside. These aren't just military assets. They're the backbone of a criminal state. Hitting them doesn't just weaken the regime, it collapses the empire that's been poisoning Americans for more than a decade. Now, if the president decides to move from covert operations to kinetic action, here's exactly how it happens. So Trump has always favored precision. Small footprint, maximum impact. The likely sequence begins with CIA sabotage, disrupting communications, scrambling radar, and blinding coastal defenses. Then comes the Tomahawks, fired from destroyers and submarines, neutralizing the anti-air systems in minutes. But next, targeted strikes on cartel leadership compounds and narco-military command centers. No large troop deployments, no endless occupations, just real fast, lethal, and surgical. A decapitation strike that takes out the head of the serpent before it even knows that the blade's coming. And in the middle of all this, what is Nicolas Maduro doing? Celebrating his birthday. Just days ago, he marched onto a stage surrounded by college students, pretending to project strength. But the truth was obvious. The students weren't cheering. They were required to be there because the forced smiles are choreographed chanting. Maduro looked shaken. He mocked U.S. warnings, bragged about Venezuela's sovereignty, and waved off America's naval presence as imperialist theatrics. But insiders noticed something different. His security doubled, his convoy routes changed, and his speeches shortened. For a man that's pretending to be fearless, he suddenly seemed to be very aware of the clock. Meanwhile, the people risking their lives inside of Venezuela, they're telling a completely very different story. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who has survived threats, intimidation, and sham investigations, made her stance crystal clear. Maduro started this war. President Trump is ending this war. She's not being dramatic, she's being honest. Now, for Venezuelans who are living under the cartel-run regime, Trump's actions aren't aggression, they're salvation. Many people see this moment as their first real chance at liberation in over a decade, and their message to Washington is the same. Keep going, don't stop, and don't let Maduro escape accountability again. Now, to really understand why the United States is acting now, you have to go back to the Monroe Doctrine. This is a principle that has guided American foreign policy for over 2 centuries. The Western Hemisphere is our neighborhood, and so, well, we don't allow hostile foreign powers, terrorist organizations, or narco states to set up shop in our backyard. Duh. And this is exactly what Maduro turned Venezuela into, a state-run cartel exporting poison directly into the United States. Trump isn't breaking precedent, he's enforcing it. So when a regime in the Americas is actively killing Americans, intervention isn't aggression, it's national security. And tonight, the doctrine is fully alive. And so now, there's another layer of tension that's building beneath the surface. It's a fear that the world remembers all too well. When Syria collapsed in 2015 and 2016, millions fled, triggering this refugee shockwave across Europe. If Maduro's regime buckles under pressure, we could see a Venezuelan version of that crisis. Under past administrations, absolutely. But here's the difference. America's southern border is airtight. 0 crossings in 6 months. Trump sealed every route that the cartels once controlled. So even if instability erupts in Venezuela, the mass migration pipeline that once threatened U.S. communities, it's already shut. Chaos abroad will not become chaos here. Inside the Situation Room, the tension is electric. Reports confirm that 4-star General Raisin Cain, one of America's top strategic commanders, is already positioned near the Venezuelan theater. Even more telling, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is expected to fly in and join him. Now, this doesn't happen for symbolic reasons. That happens when operations are in motion, when the president wants real-time battlefield visibility, not filtered briefings. Trump isn't staging political theater. He's directing a live mission. Every moment, every signal intercept, every satellite ping, this is flowing straight to the war cabinet as they prepare for the next decisive step. So let's be blunt here. Let's be very blunt about what's at stake. If the United States did nothing, if Trump allowed Maduro's network to continue unchallenged, the cost would be measured in American coffins. Fentanyl-laced narcotics would just keep on flowing in. Cartel de los Sols would expand deeper into the Caribbean. Narco-military units would grow bolder, richer, and more violent. Tens of billions more would evaporate through addiction, crime, and economic decay. And America's enemies would see us as weak, unable, or unwilling to stop a failing dictator from murdering our citizens. Trump knows the cost of inaction is far more greater than the cost of decisive force. Now, over the next 48 to 72 hours, the world is going to learn whether this moment becomes a footnote or a turning point in American foreign policy. Diplomatic channels are crackling with urgency. Naval forces around Venezuela have tightened into a near-perfect perimeter. Intelligence intercepts show Maduro's commanders switching to encrypted communications and repositioning anti-air units. These are classic signs that they're bracing for a strike. Some analysts predict a single night of precision action. Others believe that this could unfold in phases. What is certain is this: the window for Maduro to stand down is closing, and President Trump is not bluffing. And so, here we are, folks, at the edge of a moment that history books will dissect for years. In fact, maybe even decades. The United States' message to Nicolas Maduro is now unmistakably clear. Leave power, dismantle the narco terror network, or face targeted U.S. military action. There is no wiggle room here. There's no diplomatic ambiguity, no safe harbor left to hide behind. Trump has positioned warships, Marines, CIA assets, and the full weight of American resolve at Maduro's doorstep. The clock is ticking. The choice is his. The consequences are written, and tonight, for the first time in years, America is taking control of its security again. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.